What's happening, party people? Happy Resurrection Sunday. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up like button and let's get started. I am still in the LA area. Will be for a couple more days. Getting a few things done. Getting ready to change the oil on Panther for the first time. Man, that thing's only down about a half a quart after all the miles I put on it. So that is very good. So I appreciate your support. Appreciate you watching. Hope you all have a happy and safe Resurrection Sunday. Welcome to Hanging Out with Robert. That's me. This video contains things that I encounter throughout the day. If for some reason I complete a task and you would like to see the details, you could click on the link in the description area below. This video also contains tips and tricks that I learned throughout the years. I plan on leaving this video accessible for about 30 days. After that, you can view it through my Patreon account. Thank you very much for watching. Well, folks, Panther has lost his charge. The compressor's not engaging. So I got this new recharge hose. Doesn't have a trigger or a gauge on it. R134A. You take this, put it in the vents, and it'll let you know when your vents are cold. But here is the instructions here. You get a can that has a resealer, which all of them are nowadays. Follow the instructions on the can. Then you screw this in on top of the can, or you screw the can into it rather. So let me do that. Once your can is screwed into that, you attach this to your port, your service port, pull that back, and push it down on there so it locks in place. No, I don't think so. I appreciate it, man. So there it is. It's clipped on. Here it's got lock and unlock. I'm going to turn it to unlock. You push down on it. Now it fills the system. So you got to hold that down and it's filling the system. And you see that green button rose up. I'm going to let it go. And that button may fall back down, but don't seem like it fell back down. So you got to hold this button in the servicing. They also recommend that you shake the can back and forth to get the stuff in there. Well, my compressor wasn't kicking on, and now I see that my compressor power is not plugged in. So let me plug that in and then try to service it some more. Closing out the night. Jennifer Moreno VA Medical Center, San Diego, California. 50 years of serving veterans. I think the ER is this way. Looks like they got some kind of shuttle service with some tins on it. Well, here we are. About to kick off the Tinker Day with a strut replacement on this vehicle. Probably spring seats as well. It's been around a while and it's driving a little harsh. I believe this is an 09 C70. So I set the parking brake. The car's in park. I put wheel stops behind the rear tires on the other side of the car. I jacked the car up. I put a jack stand under there. Before I did that, I broke the lug nuts loose. So now I'm going to pop the hood and remove the lug nuts. I used 19 millimeter to take the lug nuts off. I pulled the wheel off. Next, I'm going to unplug the ABS sensor. I'm going to take that bolt out there. That is the A&I sway bar end links. And then I'm going to take that bolt out there. That loosens the axle from the spindle. So, because this has to drop down and away from the car a little bit, and I don't want to damage the axle. That's a 13 millimeter as a 15 millimeter. And then I'm going to pull this brake hose out from this bracket on the strut. But let me go grab the strut, make sure I got the correct struts. Look like they've been replaced once with Bilsteins. When you take this bolt out, you turn it out, then you put it in, turn it in about 3 or 4 turns and push the bolt in. Make sure the axle's free from the spindle. Then when you come up here, this ABS sensor has a tab on top of it. You push in that tab. Sometimes you can hear it click, and you massage that connection off of there. So let me try that again. You want to massage that out of this bracket, or actually you could leave it in the bracket, because when you take this bolt loose, it'll be loose there. And then this just massages out of that bracket there, that brake line. I ended up prying that out. Be careful not to damage the hose. I dabbed that with a little bit of PB Blaster. Try to break it loose with an impact if you have that. If not, you'll have to hold the inside with 30 millimeter and turn the outside with a 15 millimeter boxed in wrench. I removed that. I pried the anti-sway bar down with a pry bar. Just a little bit, take the tension off of this, pull that out of there. As you know, I got that out of there. I removed this bolt out of here with a 15 millimeter. Now the best thing to do is to put a tool in the crack of this and pry that open just a little bit. And then this spindle unit will sag down enough for this strut to come out of the knuckle. So I'm gonna try this with my little pry bar. It's better to find a tool that is hooked and you can slide in there and pry it open. But let me see what I can do with my little pry bar here. Sprayed a little bit of PB Blaster in there. Spread that out best I could. Turning the wheel a little bit this way helped spread a little bit. I still had to beat it with a hammer. If you got a 3-pound sledge or 2-pound sledge, that'd be good. As you can see, it's coming out. I'm gonna go ahead and finish pounding it the rest of the way out. And it's all the way out. So I'm gonna move the knuckle to the side and take the bolts out the top to get it the rest of the way out. I got 3 bolts there. Remove those 3 13 millimeter bolts. I was holding the strut from underneath while I pulled it out. And now I'm gonna get the spring compressor tool and put on there. You can see that video linked in the description area. Then I'm gonna pop this cap off of here with a flat tip screwdriver and take that nut out of there, but not until I see that the spring is loose from the spring seats. Compress the spring till it let loose of the spring seat bump stop up here and pulled it apart. Took the 19 millimeter off the top, then took the bellow here off, and somebody had the bump stop upside down inside this bellow. The bump stop wasn't attached to the spring seat there, so that was a mess. But I took it out of from floating around in that bellow and popped it in there. Let me show you how that goes in. See, that thing has some tabs in there, and that holds that bellow in there. You just massage it in around there until it's in the whole way around, and it'll stay in there. If you need to use a screwdriver to pry it in there, you can, but I didn't. I just pushed it in by hand all the way around. And there it is. Turn it, make sure it's in there good. And this also has the strut bearing in there. Spring seat strut bearing combo. And as you can hear, this one is really gritty. But it doesn't look busted. I do need to take this top piece off. That's actually the bearing. Had to pry the strut bearing from the spring seat, and it came apart. Actually, it broke apart because it was so worn out. I had to stick the screwdriver in between there and pry that out of there. So make sure you pry that out of there, and then you'll be able to put this together. Now you can put the new strut in place through the spring, put this on top, put the bolt back on top. This is the side of the boot, dust boot, that goes to the top. This side is toward the bottom, and your bump stop should look like that in there. So I'm gonna put this together, make sure that the spring is at that stop there, put that over there, tighten that 19mm down. I did not get a new 19mm with this strut, so you gotta reuse the one that was there. As you may have noticed, there's not a spring stop in the spring seat up here. So you got to make sure that the spring is seated all the way against the strut there. And up at the top, you got to make an alignment. That nipple there needs to be aligned with that groove right there, which needs to be aligned with that alignment there that goes into the back of your knuckle. So you got to make a straight line between that and the spring seat up here, and make sure your spring is there, and slowly release your spring holding tools, and you'll be good to go. Unlike some of these, once you're set like this bearing may not turn easily. Part of the reason why they have failure. So always replace these bearings when you're replacing the struts, and make sure your springs are not broken, or you'll need to replace your springs too. So I'm gonna go ahead and set this back up in there. It's a triangle, and I don't think you can get this in the wrong way. You got one side is bowed and the two sides are straight. So make sure you put that up in there correctly. Get those strut bolts and try to shadow align them the best you can to minimize the need for alignment. If you're going to replace those sway bar end links, it's probably best to do that before you put this strut in here. It's a lot easier. And then when you get the strut, turn it so that it gets ready to fall in that slot back there, and probably easiest to jack this up until your bolt will go through that hook on your strut and your knuckle bolt. Don't make the mistake I just made. These things have a left and a right. See that L? That's for left. So I got to get this back out of here, put it on the left side. So to get the strut back in, I raised the strut up in there. I started with this screw here, got those other screws in. I got it snug kind of tight. Then I lined up the back of it and turned it so that the knuckle was lined up with the bracket in the back of the strut assembly. Then I pushed the axle in, made sure that went in, and then I grabbed and massaged the knuckle onto the bottom of the strut until I could get that bolt through. I got that bolt through, tighten that down. Now, if for some reason your knuckle is not lined up with the slot, the bracket on the back of the strut, you can just grab a wrench. I used a adjustable jaw wrench. I put it on this tab of the strut, and I moved the strut clockwise or counterclockwise until that bracket was lined up in the slot of the knuckle. If it don't slide up there when you jerk it up, go ahead and put a jack or something under there to jack up the ball joint and massage that bottom of that strut and that knuckle until it's all the way up where you can put that bolt in there. I tightened that bolt to 65 foot-pounds. Can't remember what it's supposed to be. I tightened this one to 45 foot-pounds. Can't remember what it's supposed to be. And then I put the wheel on. It's good to go. Make sure you clip in the speed sensor before that. Before you put this bolt in this upper anti-sway bar end link, make sure you put the anti-skid wire bracket onto the end link before you tighten that bolt on there. Forgot to do that on the other side. Then I wet the grommet that pushed the brake line into the strut bracket, and it just popped right in. Put the wheel on, torque the wheel on, jack the car up, remove the jack stand, and then lower the car down. I'm good to go. And don't forget to torque your axle nut. Last but not least, put your bolt cap on there, both sides. You're all done. Next up, I'm gonna replace the bulb in here with a LED bulb. You see it's got slots in there. This piece pops off, so let me get a tool to pop this out of here. A bone tool or a small pry bar or something. Try not to scratch up the paint around this trim piece. Pop this off, then we'll pull the fog light out. These have tabs in the top, so you really need to pry those tabs down and start working it out to get this to come out of here. One tab down the bottom, two tabs on the top, one tab on this side. The new bulbs we were given to put in the fog lights don't fit, so we're going to take the old headlight bulbs and put them in place of the fog lights. We're not going to do this because we need a UV light or we need sunlight, which we have neither, so we're going to put that on hold. Let me get these fog light bulbs replaced with these headlight bulbs and take this car for a test drive. Once you pull that off, you got two screws in your fog light. One here, this one is loose. Somebody's had this one out already, and one there. And this side of the fog light is totally broken, so this one needs to be replaced. But let me go ahead and pull these two screws. And this other side, the fog light just kind of hooks into the plastic, so you just swing it out and unhook it. Once you have the fog light pulled out, you can unplug it, push in that tab and massage it out, and then take the bulb and turn it a quarter of a turn, and it'll come out of the assembly. So there you have it. You can also turn it out with the plug on it, and this should just lift off right here. It's got a little gasket on there, so it doesn't come off super easy, but don't touch the bulb, you'll ruin it. And that gasket goes on the bulb assembly like that. So pull that gasket off of there so you don't have to. Turn the bulb in there, plug the plug in, and that's the side that the two posts are broken off into the holes. Push this back in place and snug those two screws down. Because of this way this came out, you gotta hook this in and then line up all the clips and clip them in place all the way across. You got two up top, two on the bottom, one on the edge. If all goes well, your light will be up against your fog light trim here. And that's it. If your trim is not against your light lens, one of these 5 clips are probably not clipped in all the way, so be careful that they're tucking in their guide and clipped in all the way. I'm going to let this car the rest of the way down, take it for a test drive. These are the tools I needed and used to do the struts on this C70. Safety glasses, gloves, rags, long pry bar, short pry bar be good too. I got a small pry bar there, flat tip screwdriver, 1/2-inch tools, brake and lug nuts loose with the breaker bar. I got a T30 and a T40, 19mm socket, 15mm socket, 13mm socket, ratchet wrench, boxed in wrench, that's a 19. And of course the other box end's a 15. Wire brush, adjustable jaw wrench, a couple of impact sockets, a 19 and a 15. Small sledge or dead blow hammer is good. All your tire change stuff, your jack, your wheel stops, and your jack stands. There you have it. Working on those P1 cars. Man, I got a little confused with there being a right and left strut. Who'd have known? Learn something new every day. Also, if you're going to do that job on that C70, man, those P1s, replace everything you can in there and check, see if the springs are broke before you get started, because they say those break too. It's kind of a weak design. I actually reused the strut mounts on top. The ones that he got was a brand that I didn't trust for being in that suspension system. So yeah, use quality parts up there, man, so you don't be getting that stuff torn up prematurely. I don't know how long those Bilsteins was on there, but they were horrible. And the owner loved the good feel of the new ride. We got the Sax, which is usually a Volvo brand, and it's great ride. So I'm gonna remix those two videos, the strut video and that fog light video, repost those so they'll be standalone videos. And I appreciate your support, appreciate you watching. If you need me, contact me. Hope to see you again soon.